Alright guys, so today I will be installing my stock 2.5 turbo sedan exhaust from another 4th gen. And the main difference that I know and what I really wanted it for was the tips. I'm not sure if there's going to be any difference internally, but when I take both of the exhausts off, I'll compare the external to see if it looks any different. But I'm assuming they're exactly the same, and the only difference is probably going to be the exhaust tips. I'll measure just to make sure. But I attempted to blast this and try to get off some of the rust because this exhaust came from Minnesota, and there is clearly rust on it. No big deal, but maybe some of this will burn off after I put it on the car and get it heated up. But I did hit it with that blaster. It seemed to actually make the rust worse, but not a big deal. We'll see how it goes and see if maybe the sound even changes, even though it's just the tips that I'm thinking got bigger. But yeah, we'll go ahead and install that, and later on I'll explain why I decided to stick with the stock muffler versus doing aftermarket. And then the science behind it. Guys, this is my current exhaust setup. As you can see, the tips don't fill up the bumper gap too much. They're angled, if you can see from the side. They're an angled tip, and the new exhaust does have an angled tip. It just looks like it's slightly bigger. I'm gonna go ahead and give you some revs. My car sounds pretty much completely stock. I'll give it a couple revs, and then once we change out the exhaust, we'll go ahead and compare the revs to see if it sounds any different. I didn't do the cold start because, like I said, my car sounds stock. But if I do notice a difference, I'll let you know. Here's the stock setup. I'm gonna give it some revs so you can hear it. Probably won't be any different. You guys, in my vehicle, there's a minor rust here, not as bad as that exhaust from Minnesota or whatever. Not as much, but there is some. But as you can see, it's pretty clean under my car, considering I haven't really washed it lately. I mean, there is rust here and there, but I mean, by the time that gets to the point of me needing to replace anything, I'll probably be on to my next vehicle. But yeah, it's literally just to remove your axle back muffler. It's 2 bolts, and then you have your hangers up here that you need to remove on both sides, and that's it. So I got them aligned, and as you can see, the turbo is fatter, the turbo muffler, whereas this one is thinner, which means the sound should be a little bit deeper since there is more volume in there. I was expecting just the exhaust tips to be different size, which they are, but also the piping is actually bigger on the turbo. I can barely get my hand around it versus this one, my fingers overlap. So there's a size difference in there. I didn't bring my measuring tape, but I can measure later and get you guys the diameter difference. But yes, the piping's bigger. I wasn't expecting that. I was just planning on getting tips, but now I guess I'll have a little bit more flow, less restriction on the back end. So this is probably the best overall exhaust you can do for your NA model, is finding a turbo model exhaust. It's going to give you more than enough flow, so it's more free flowing. And I'll explain why I chose to do the muffler versus going with the aftermarket. It is all based on physics. And like I said, now I wasn't expecting all this. There might be a sound difference. Guys, I'm getting ready to install the turbo muffler, and to make things easier to take on and off the hangers, I highly suggest this. Lubricate the hanger so that the nipples, the head slide on a lot easier and they come off a lot easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray those hangers, the rubber garments, and then put it on. Yeah, so I got the tips on. I actually kind of dropped the exhaust a little bit and I scratched it up at the bottom. You ain't even gonna see it, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up, and if I need to spray paint it, I will. But yes, the tips look OEM. So now we'll go ahead and start it up and see if it sounds any different. There you go. They can see my license plate all day. They've already saw it on the dyno. Let's see if it sounds any different. Sounds like stock. Sounds just a little bit more free flowing. So it doesn't sound much. It actually sounds even more stock now because with the other muffler, it sound like there was like too much pressure in it. So guys, it sounds better. It actually sounds like it's breathing a little bit better. So like before, I could literally hear the wind noise on that stock one. Now, like it just doesn't sound so restricted when it's coming out the tailpipe. Like there's so much pressure, like the back pressure. This is just more free flowing, and the car does rev a little bit easier. I barely put any throttle input, and it revs better. It revs more freely. So it's definitely an upgrade that I recommend. If you can get it for free, like I did, go ahead and do that, because there's plenty of guys with turbo exhaust that took it off for aftermarket. Don't tell them that the stock exhaust is better. Sounds like stock. Guys, that does look a lot better, man. Like, man, free 99. I don't even need to do an exhaust upgrade after this. That was my exhaust upgrade. So there you go, guys. Turbo exhaust looks factory. Keeping all the aerodynamics, because you know how it's shaped. I don't have air getting caught up in the backside of the bumper. So I don't know if you guys know, like when you see like old Honda Civics have all these holes drilled out on the backside of that bumper. That's to reduce drag. And with the OEM muffler, you see how it's designed like that? That's to keep the stream of air flowing all the way out the backside and not coming up underneath the bumper on the inside and causing drag. So that is one benefit of the OEM exhaust, is that it's very streamlined to keep drag low, versus, you know, once you go aftermarket, then some of that air will end up in the inside the back bumper and causing drag and pulling it back. So even though this exhaust is heavier than my other OEM one, there will be less drag on the road than a lighter aftermarket exhaust. Guys, there you have it. I put my turbo exhaust on. I'm completely happy with it. I drove it around all day. The car does indeed drive a lot smoother. The top end is definitely a little bit more eager. And honestly, there's just nothing that I really need to do to the car now. Like I wasn't expecting performance gains. I was just going for looks, but I guess that's my last, you know, performance mod to it. So I have two genuine OEM Mazda turbo parts on my car. I have the snorkel, you know, for my air, and then I have my exhaust. So I have the entrance and the exit from my OEM turbo car, and they both helped. So I really do want to go more in depth why the turbo exhaust is like the best overall, you know, exhaust system, you know, for your vehicle. I might get some heat for this because, you know, I'm losing company sales. I know about 15 different axle back exhausts for our 4th gen Mazdas, and there's only one that is designed very well, and it is very expensive. So the AutoX or AutoEXE, that is the only muffler system that I've seen for the axle back that actually takes in consideration a lot of other things. Like I feel like they actually studied fluid dynamics and flow, because their intakes that I've seen are the best aftermarket intakes for the Mazdas. Like everything they do, they know how the airflow is going in, and they take that into all into consideration. Like they don't just design something without purpose. Besides their, you know, their exterior mods, man, I don't really like their appearance stuff, and you know, their bracing. Not really a fan of it, but their performance modifications are legit. And there's a reason why they cost more, because they have put some thought into those. All the other ones, not as good. So they're the only ones with an actual muffler to where there isn't like a 90-degree bend coming from the mid pipe into the split to your dual exit. So that is one thing they did right. So on our OEM muffler, you have your mid pipe, which mine is stock, and then it goes into the muffler chamber, and then the exhaust gases dissipate, right? On pretty much like almost every exhaust aftermarket axle-back exhaust that I've seen, like the mufflers, the split, it goes straight, right, from your mid pipe, and then there's a 90-degree turn that the exhaust gases have to make. So I don't know if you know anything about refraction and just physics. When the gases have to change direction, there's a loss of energy and a loss of velocity. So you got to think about things like the flow of water. If water is flowing down the pipe and then all of a sudden there's a T branch off, right? So what's going to happen is before that water even starts to go down that 90-degree bend, it's going to hit the wall, right? The back side of that pipe, and then it has to reroute and change direction. So now, like, some of those gases that are going straight and they hit that back side of that pipe that's like teed off, it's going to bounce back. Now you're getting airflow or gases going back upstream, which is causing the exhaust gases to fight each other before it even starts to go, left and right out the dual exit. So there's just a lot of flow characteristics that a lot of exhaust companies don't take into consideration. And so with the OEM, it doesn't hit a wall. It just dissipates open before it goes into its pipes. It has space, so it's not just going straight into a 90-degree bend. And that's what AutoX does with their two fourth gen exhausts I saw. It goes into a muffler and then dissipates, versus all the exhausts that I'm seeing for the most part are going straight, and then it tees off into like a very tight V or a 90-degree bend. And the V is going to be better than the HKS exhaust that I saw that has a 90-degree tee off. That's obviously the worst one, and it's like the lightest exhaust. That exhaust is 20 pounds lighter than the stock exhaust, but it also has a 90-degree bend, which the whole point is to have better flow, and it doesn't. Yes, you're dropping 20 pounds, but then also you're getting more wind resistance because you don't have that OEM muffler blocking the air from hitting inside the bumper, and the exhaust gases are not flowing as well because of that 90-degree bend. So it kind of defeats the purpose of being 20 pounds lighter if you're going to get less power and then also have more aerodynamic drag. All right. So even though the HKS is the lightest, it's like almost the worst. And I believe it's lighter maybe because of the material is thinner. So and that's also something a lot of people don't take into consideration is the piping thickness. The OEM pipe is going to be thicker than all the aftermarket exhausts that I've seen, and having thicker pipe retains heat. So that's why you see a lot of guys with aftermarket headers wrapping it, because the aftermarket headers typically aren't as thick as an OEM, which means they don't retain heat as well. And when you retain heat, the exhaust gases go out the exit faster, right? So enough of that. I kind of want to make a whole video about exhaust, and that's what I'm going to do, but I'm like working my way up to it because I don't want to overload you guys with information, and I'm kind of just trying to see how I should format this. So I'm going to need you guys to let me know. So I do want to make a whole video explaining exhaust characteristics and how it's specific to our motor, why we need it in a certain way. And like I said, I've been kicked out of a Facebook group because they told me I was wrong, and I ended up being right, man. I dyno tested, my car with the exhaust disconnected from the rear, with the single exit, with the stock muffler, with another brand's muffler, which I try not to like diss brands because I want everyone to make money, but also I don't want people to be lied to. And there's a lot of that going around, and if I have to, I'll let out names. But anyways, the OEM one, from what I've seen with my customers, like I've had people, I don't even tell them it's not placebo because I don't even tell my customers. I've had people have to go in and do warranty work and switch out their exhaust back to that stock exhaust and tell me, hey man, my car's faster. Is this a placebo? Like, I don't know if I'm you know, like just imagining this. I'm like, no, there's other people that said the same thing. And then when I was on a dyno, I noticed the same thing. It's just the design of the OEM muffler is meant to be as efficient as possible without causing disruption in the exhaust flow and also keeping your car quiet. These, like I said, engineers designed this. So if you're thinking you can do better than an engineer that their whole life is dedicated to this, go ahead. But I mean, from what I've seen, nothing has beat the OEM exhaust. So the turbo exhaust is going to be better than the NA exhaust for sure. But and this is specifically to the NA models. Turbo is a little bit different. There's some stuff you can do to the turbo model to get more power. But mainly with the turbo cars, the only thing I've really seen that increased the overall exhaust power is the downpipe. All right. The rest of the exhaust is already like kind of big enough. If you're going for exhaust, it's mainly for sound. The downpipe does help a little bit because the cat cell is smaller. So like on my exhaust, the only thing I have done, I have the second cat delete and the turbo exhaust. And that's pretty much, I don't think I need any more floor. The car feels amazing. I don't feel like there's like excess back pressure. It's just the right amount of, you know, diameter for the gases to do what they need to do. They need to exit, they get out. But yeah, there's just not much that you can change to get more power because basically the engineers designed everything to flow as max as possible. But the only thing that is restricting us is our emissions equipment. So that's why, you know, if you're NA, you can take out the charcoal filter. For turbo guys, you can reduce the amount of the cat, you know, get a better flowing cat. And I take out the second cat on my car. But as far as like, you know, NA models trying to do headers, I don't think it's worth it, and especially because they're so loud. You can get some good power, like the second gens. They get good power when they switch to the MS DS header, but then you have to construct a whole new exhaust because it won't mate up to your original exhaust. And then there's a 4th gen header. I've seen a couple of them. A lot of them were trash. The best one I saw was the one from Kodo Style, and it does sacrifice a little bit on the low end, but the top end, it's, you know, it's the best one I've seen. I personally wouldn't do it because it's not worth the low end torque loss. But anyways, we're not going to talk too much about that. I just want to let you guys know that I am extremely happy with it. It sounds as good as I thought it was. The only thing left, and I'll leave it in the comments maybe tomorrow, is to see how it sounds with the cold start. I haven't done that yet. I'm hoping it's not too loud with the cold start. I'll just let you know. I should have videoed it, but you know, I want to get this Mazda Monday video out on a Monday for the first time in a long time. So that's what I'm going to do today. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So just let me know if you guys want me to continue with the exhaust information and show you all 15 exhausts that I found for the 4th gen, or do you guys want me to switch on to a different topic next week and go over maybe my window up down or installing my paddles for my 4th gen? So I don't know if you guys want more just how-to videos or more educational videos on how things work on the car. Let me know what you would want me to prioritize for next week. One last thing before I go, because I know some of you are going to try to go buy this turbo exhaust. Just remember, if you're a sedan model, you need to buy a turbo sedan exhaust. All right. If you're a hatchback, just remember, you either need to make sure you have the correct, you know, length muffler for your hatchback. So you got to remember there's an appearance package. So when you go to buy your muffler from your turbo friends or whoever, make sure you ask them if they have the appearance package or not. So if you have a non-appearance package hatchback, in a hatchback, make sure you find a turbo guy who does not have the appearance package, because I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that there are different lengths of the exhaust for the appearance package or not for the hatchback, and the sedan exhaust is longer than both of those. So if you have a sedan, you have to get the sedan turbo exhaust. So I just want to throw that out there before there's a lot of confusion. And yeah, that's all, guys. Catch you later.